Hey, what's going on? Hopefully, Facebook Live cooperates with us. Do a quick talk about easing back into your training. Today, they just, and this is July or August 3rd, we're in August now, 2020, and they just released the sign up for people to deferred for Ironman Tulsa from 2020 to 2021. So I just completed that. And my athletes that are taking that deferment and going to Tulsa 2021, we're looking at potentially starting kind of an off-season, post-season, COVID season, whatever you want to gap plan, common deal to run them up to starting to race-specific training back in January of 2021. We're going to go and stay positive that the race is going to happen, no problems. But that got me thinking, a lot of people, with what's been going on, they just kind of took some time off, or maybe you had an injury, or maybe just something came up and you want to ease back into your training or get back into your training and build your structure back in, get your consistency. But I always caution people, don't just jump right back into it, especially if you had a race on the calendar. We still got a couple. There's Ironman Florida, Ironman Texas, I think Ironman Arizona is still out there. So those races are still there. But if you took some time off and some things happened and gym shut down, whatever, and you're just now, things are opening back up, or they shut down again, they're opening back up, you can't just pick up and leave off and pick up where your plan is. You're going to set yourself up for some injury if you're going from zero back to, 12, 13, 14 hours weeks of training and high intensity workouts and stuff. So I just want to throw some tips out there so you don't go out there and overload yourself, get burnt out, chronic fatigue, all this good stuff, and then injure yourself and then not be ready for your race health-wise. So quick tips. Like I said, don't jump back into the plan where you should be. So look at your plan, and if you've got a 6-hour ride on Saturday and a 18-mile run on Sunday, and you haven't done anything for 2 or 3 weeks, that's probably not going to be the best advice to jump right in where you left off. So make a smart decision of, you might have to pare down some workouts and stuff. So don't just jump right back in your plan where you left off. Don't jump right back into the intense workouts. So if you've been doing threshold runs and mile repeats and stuff like that, and then you leave for 2 or 3 weeks, or you just kind of do easy stuff, don't jump right back into your monster workout, doing 4 sets of 10 minutes at threshold. You're going to have to step back and ease back into the intensity of where you want to be at according to where your race plan is. So don't just jump in there and do the hardest workout possible and just like nothing happened. You're gonna set yourself up for injury pretty quick there. So don't just jump right back in intensity. You might have to be a little bit aggressive in your ramp up. Rule of thumb is you don't want to increase your volume, your workload by like 10% from week to week. But if you took some time off and you've got a big race coming up and you want to at least be ready to do the distance, you may have to exceed that a little bit. And that's just on volume. Like I said, pared back the intensity, just look at volume, maybe, going from a 40 to a 60 miler from weekend to weekend, something like that. You may have to ramp it up a little bit steeper than you kind of originally wanted to, or most coaches like to see you do it. But that may be something you have to do. So, and ignore my dog running around upstairs on the hardwood floors. So you may have to be aggressive. You might need to shift some of the weeks. So in my plans that I write for athletes, we've got some build cycles, we've got some transition cycles, we got some test weeks, we got race prep, we got all kinds of different kind of periods and microcycles and macro cycles and all of the stuff going in their plans. So you may have to do kind of a reboot of where you're at and shift around your cycles. So, if you go 2 or 3 weeks and you're kind of, off the kind of routine and workout, you can't just come back in and do 3 build weeks in a row and expect to be okay. So I think you'll need to go back and look at your plan to say, okay, I'm going to ease back in with kind of a transition down week, and then I'm going to do build, transition, build, and then ease back into your plan. So don't just, go crazy. You may have to shift around your cycles and that type of thing from, pre-competitive and race-specific training, that type of thing. So be aware you might have to do that. Consider breaking up your longer workouts. So I've been a big proponent of breaking up the long run. So you do so much in the morning and then you come back later, maybe in the afternoon or the evening, and finish it up for like long runs. I hate to see people do runs over 2 hours long. It just kind of destroys your body and takes a lot of recovery. You can do the same thing with, maybe you left off for 2 or 3 weeks and the weekend you kind of jump back in your plan. It's a 6-hour bike ride. So maybe you take that 6 hours and you put 30 minutes on one of your earlier week rides, you put another 30 minutes on another ride, and maybe you do 4 hours that day, and then the next day you do 30, 45 minutes or an hour before you go out and do your run. So kind of spread, you can still do the same workload, but if you spread it out smartly, you can kind of distribute the pain and suffering so it doesn't happen all at once, so then you don't bury yourself in a hole in that first big weekend back. So that's another tip. Consider breaking up your longer workouts. Always kind of go by, it's better to be 10% underprepared than 1% overtrained. So I would rather see athletes being smart about their plan, getting back into things if they're taking time off, whether it be from injury or COVID-19 or the gym shut down, the pool shut down, whatever. I'd rather see you undertrained than overtrained. Undertrained, it means you may have to go in and do a lot more walking on the run than you anticipated, or it may mean your splits are slower or something like that. That's fine. You go in overtrained, you're going to be burnt out, you're going to be fatigued, you're probably not going to be really excited for the race. It's a bad spot to be in. So I'd rather see people, you still need that race prep time, you still need that taper time before the race. So don't run high volume right up to race day and still be run down and overtired. So make sure you still build in that cushion for race prep, which is lower volume, still a little bit of intensity, and then for taper week, which is much lower workload leading into your race. So don't burn your bridges and don't burn the candle at both ends. Whatever your metaphor you want to use, make sure that you're coming in being rested, and if that means you're doing less workload, then so be it. Be undertrained, don't be overtrained going into the race. Listen to your body. So if you can start getting back in your plan, even you're being smart about it, you're being, you're thinking about it, you're being proactive, and you're adjusting your workouts and your cycles and your workload and your volume and everything, but your body just is not responding well. You got niggles, you got injuries, you got things, just nagging little stuff that keeps popping up. Listen to your body. It may not be ready to jump right back in, so you may have to dial it way down and then ease your way back into it. And like I said with the overtraining, if you try to kind of ramp up a little bit more than you typically would week after week, and your body doesn't like it, doesn't respond, you're fatigued, you're tired, you're feeling sore, you're hurt, and you're grumpy, and your family doesn't want to be around you, then it's time to go back and say, well, maybe this isn't, my strategy's not right, and maybe I can be a little bit undertrained because I'm not going to make it that short amount of time. One athlete approached me. He's doing Ironman St. George, but he's taken time off. He had rotator cuff injury surgery. So this is August 3rd, and that race is in mid-September. So he's got he can probably get to a point where he can finish it, but I would hate to see him just ramp up everything and then injure his shoulder even further after surgery or something like that. So listen to your body. If it's not responding the way you want it to, you're going to be a little tired. You're going to be a little bit worn out. But if you're hurting all the time and you're sore and you're mentally burnt out, time to pause, reset, and then maybe you even have to pare it down a little bit more. I'm checking my notes here. So the worst case is, if you do get to a point where it's like it's just not going to happen, know those dates in your race when you can opt out for deferrals or refunds. I posted videos on that of the available opportunities for races that they offer with the entries anyway, regardless of pandemics and COVID-19 and coronavirus and all that stuff. Races already have deadlines built in that if you signed up by a certain time and you requested by a certain time, you can defer into another race. You can use your entry and defer to the same race the next year. You can get a partial refund. So at the end of the day, if you get in there and you're trying to get back ready for your race after a layoff and easing into it just isn't working and your body's not responding, there is opportunities to go back and say, okay, worst case, we're going to have to, pull the plug and punt it for another time because I don't want to get severely injured, or you've got an injury that just won't go away and you got to do something and take care of it. It's just not going to go away. So that is my quick tips on what you can do to kind of ease back into your workouts to get ready for your race. Like I said, if you've just been out of it for a while, work really kicked up, traveling a lot, and you got an injury, or you had a bike wreck and recovered from that, there's tons of reasons out there. Those are smart ways to ease back into it. So if you just now join me, you can rewind this all the way to the front and watch the replay. And again, these are tips on how to ease back into your training so you don't burn yourself out, cause injury, you're not burnt out for race day or anything like that. So any questions, put them in the comments. Happy training out there, and we'll see you next Facebook Live.